problem in insurance that we see is that these companies are solely focused on recruiting. Like you literally cannot get through an introductory meeting without being pitched on, it's time to start recruiting, and you're thinking, well, I don't even know what insurance companies I'm representing, or what are my clients going to say when this happens?
You're listening to the Insurance Academy Podcast with Ryan Madison and Colin Meyer. Tune in every Monday at 7:30 a.m. Central Standard Time to get the knowledge, skills, and advice you need to be successful in the insurance business.
Good morning, everybody. This is your host, Ryan, and I just have such a special guest today who's going to talk to us a little bit about some perception that's out there about maybe a career in insurance might be a little bit of a racket. And since before I began selling final expense insurance personally, I was interested in learning more about the industry, and I stumbled across a YouTube channel that gave me all sorts of tips and training on selling final expense insurance. And since then, I've used that training to help me personally increase my production, and I've really appreciated this gentleman's dedication to helping agents just like me who have brought no monetary gain to him whatsoever. I don't have any contracts through him. I don't pay him for training. All I've done is watch his free content on YouTube and read a whole bunch of his blogs, and they're absolutely top-notch. So our guest today has over 3,000 subscribers on YouTube, well over 500 training videos available for everybody, many of which have over 10,000 views. He is the author of the book, The Official Guide to Selling Final Expense Insurance. The proven final expense insurance sales and leads is used by top final expense agents across the country. Please welcome the final expense agent mentor, Dave Dufour. Good morning, Dave.
Greetings and salutations. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, man. So, Dave, tell us about yourself.
Well, I am at the current year, I am a 33-year-old young man, and have been in the insurance business since 2011, where I came into this business out of complete desperation. I had a business prior to this, was affected by the Great Recession, as all of us probably have lived through, and just stumbled across the final expense business and jumped in. I got out there and sold face-to-face, just like agents listening to this podcast. And I had my ups, had my downs for sure. And now I've recruit agents nationally, do training, as you talked about earlier, and just commit myself to business.
Yeah, I can definitely agree and attest to that because you do help a lot of people. And so tell us a little bit of your background. You know, where'd you grow up? Where do you live? What part of the country? And kind of what made you get into the industry? And how long have you been in the industry?
Yeah, good question. So I grew up in a town called Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's about 2 hours north of Atlanta. Grew up down here. Mom and Dad are from Michigan. And went to school up in Boston at Boston University. Got done in a year earlier than expected.
Awesome.
And, graduated, came back. Was actually interested in the fitness business originally, and had a personal training gym. I had lost a lot of weight, loved that particular type of industry. And then, like I said, things are going great. I was in my early 20s, and then the bottom fell out of the market. Most of my clients were upper income, middle upper income, and like I said, things are going great. I was in my early 20s, and then the bottom fell out of the market. Most of my clients were upper income, middle upper income, and they saw their retirements and financials dramatically affected. So I was in a position where, hey, I want to be a business owner. I want to have the freedom that comes along with running a business. And I couldn't get a job. Nobody wants to hire an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. And came across insurance, the least sexy job there is, at least I thought at the time.
Right.
And I stumbled across the final expense business and liked how it was a higher first-year commission. It was a non-technical product, so I didn't need to know some advanced, information like, say, Medicare or annuities or that kind of thing. And it was primarily numbers related. And so I decided to jump in part-time just to see if it was right for me. And once I got some traction, eventually I closed the gym.
Field selling, or are you mostly training agents?
Yeah, so I transitioned for the most part to a support and mentor to my agency for the hundreds that work with me across the country. Now, with that said, I do sell in the field. It is not full-time. It averages probably to about a day a week, and most of that is done when I have agents come field train with me, where they come work leads, and I coach them to be better. But in conjunction with that, there's some deals that I'll pick up, maybe some referrals. We'll see on those days. So, yeah, there's still an element of in the trenches that I think is important to have, especially if you're going to bring agents in and train them to be successful.
Yeah. How many agents would you say that you've probably trained or helped train? I mean, you've got a pretty big audience on YouTube.
Yeah, so several hundred. I don't know the exact number. Anybody who recruits, if they're honest, will tell you not all of them are. So,
you've got a pretty big audience on YouTube.
Yeah, so several hundred. I don't know the exact number. Anybody who recruits, if they're honest, will tell you not all of them are going to do business. Some of them will contract and not pull the trigger. It's just kind of normal. But there's always, I got a core group that does some kind of business with me on a constant basis. But no, I've, at some point or another, over the past 5 years of the training, it's at least been 500 or 600 agents that have come through the doors that have done some kind of business, or at least attempted to start to do some kind of business.
That's awesome, man.
Hey, Dave, really quick, where can our listeners find you on social media?
Really, the best place to go is YouTube. That's where 90% of my focus is. I'm on Facebook. I think I got a Twitter. I don't know. YouTube is where I focus really all of my efforts. So if you just go to YouTube and you put in Dave Duford or Final Expense Agent Mentor into the search box, you'll see my stuff.
Okay. And why you do it, what it's there for, and how long have you been doing that?
Yeah, so when I started recruiting early on, it was apparent to me. Now, this, again, put your mindset in the fact that this is strictly final expense we're talking about. At the time in 2013, the training was abysmal. Most insurances we'll talk about is multi-level marketing based. It's not based off of skill development and agent development. It's based off of, can you fog this mirror? Great, you're hired, and then go find some other people to recruit. And so I took the angle of, hey, look, not everybody wants to recruit a downline. Some people hate the idea of being in the adult babysitting business, as I like to call recruiting sometimes. And they want to be good at this business. They want to go right with their own pen. They want to create an inner business that has upside potential, but also gives them the freedom. But they want the training and the support that comes along with it, too. So that's kind of where I stuck my flag on 10. They want to create an inner business that has upside potential, but also gives them the freedom. But they want the training and the support that comes along with it, too. So that's kind of where I stuck my flag, if you will. But that naturally evolved into this YouTube channel, which at the time I wasn't involved. But again, there just wasn't a lot of resources out there. And it dawned on me that a great way to position my agency and create connections and relations with people out there was to show people, hey, what Frank Kern, he's a marketing guy, talks about results in advance.
Yep, I know Frank.
I could get on YouTube and I could show you how to rebuttal the "I'm thinking about it" objection, or how to pre-qualify effectively to get a high-quality, high-odds buyer when you're in the home. Look, if I can show people this, they're going to be amazed to start this out. At this point in 2018, it's evolved more than just final expense. I talk a lot about insurance sales training for any insurance professional that needs help with building rapport or presenting effectively, that needs help with, it doesn't matter the product. I do interviews just like this now. So it's evolving into more of a I won't say generic, but a wider breadth of product and knowledge and training to really affect all insurance agents, with the goal of just increasing the total volume of knowledge that's out there that's actionable, that these agents can put into force and actually put to good use. Exactly,
man. We share a common vision there as far as getting some knowledge out there, because there is I agree with your assessment that it is abysmal. it's you can't. It seems to be everything's so hush hush, and that's why we created the show here, is to be able to get some of that. I agree with your assessment that it is abysmal. It seems to be everything's so hush hush, and that's why we created the show here, is to be able to get some of that knowledge out there that everybody needs to be successful. So I want to talk about it. A couple of your shows, I guess, and it's the topic of today's show. Your most popular videos were why life insurance careers are a racket, learn the truth about selling final insurance. What's your vision for Final Expense Agent Mentor? And when you're doing videos like that, is that consumer facing or agent facing? Because is that for new agents that are already that are coming into the industry, or is that for agents who are already in the industry and maybe feel like they're part of a racket? Can you kind of explain?
So I think the main motivation behind those videos, but from people that
can you say that again?
Been in the business, because they know exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
And again, I'm sure your audience is wondering, well, why do you bring a guy on who thinks that sells insurance, has a YouTube channel, but then calls it a racket? Well, again, it's kind of tongue in cheek, but the main emphasis of that video was directed towards this unfortunate bias and direction that these insurance carriers, or I should say insurance agencies, tilt toward as a majority of the time, built around the multi-level marketing system. And again, most of us know what multi-level marketing is. It's a product, but it's a distribution style, right? It's developed on personal sales or referrals of your friends and family, and then you try to recruit some of those people to duplicate the process, and you develop this long, big downline, and you get to build a passive income, and it's great, yeah. But the problem in insurance, and then you try to recruit some of those people to duplicate the process, and you develop this long, big downline, and you get to build a passive income, and it's great, yeah. But the problem in insurance that we see is that these companies literally cannot get through an introductory meeting.
Oh my gosh!
With the principals of the agency without being pitched on, it's time to start recruiting, and you're thinking, well, I don't even know what insurance companies I'm representing, or what are my clients going to say when this happens?
Yep.
And what happens with this is that the quality of the training and the knowledge base lowers and lowers and lowers over time, to the point where consumers just don't have really this great, they just don't get the kind of service and help that they could otherwise get. So people end up with poor options. They don't get the best service. And people really, and it gives us a bad name. Because
I agree.
Every time you think somebody's selling insurance, it's an immediate like, ugh. This guy's trying to sell me something.
Right.
It's not a professional type. It's not like a doctor or an accountant where, you have this knowledge and skill base where people measurably and positively affect somebody's life.
Right.
So yeah, I don't mean to rant here.
No, I'm in 100% agreement.
Agencies to do this. It's great for the people who are at the top of the pyramid. But for the guys like your audience that are in the trenches, that want a system, that want to succeed and need help, it's the worst option for them.
I know. So what do you suggest new agents do when they're thinking about getting a career in insurance? What steps should they take to make sure that they are not just put into an indoctrination of some sort of recruiting cult or whatever it is? Because what ends up happening, I agree with you, is the training just drops off. And how is somebody with 4 months experience or a year experience going to teach you the right way to do it? I mean, you can't. You need to learn somebody with decades of experience. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, the hiring practices in the insurance business are entirely different from corporate America, in the sense that if you've got a pulse, 9 out of 10 agencies will hire you. Okay. Now, and again, why do they do that? Because their strategy is, in most cases, to do what's called a Project 100 or Project 200,
right?
Where you create a list of your friends, family members, business associate, and the concept is to recruit, or I shouldn't say maybe recruit, but at least to develop business from them.
Yeah.
And so what happens is that And that works for a short time. But then when you exhaust that list, well, how do you find business? How do you prospect?
Right.
So acknowledge that you gotta have the discernment when you're looking for an agency, and not to fall for the first guy that is wearing a suit that tells you you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, tells you what you want to hear, and then tries to entice you into being a member of their organization.
Right.
So you've got to interview them. That's the strategy you have to employ.
I agree.
Do they meet the profile of what you need to be successful? And then number two is perfect to your point. What you have to do as a new agent is you have to find somebody who knows their stuff. You want to work with somebody, especially new, that has field experience, preferably in the product that you're thinking about representing. Not all the time, but at least work with somebody who's sold this stuff.
Right. Well, yeah.
Independently of marketing. And because, look, marketers, again, people who recruit have a different set of experiences than the person who sold first and understands people and understands selling than the guy who never did. And
right.
I prefer to work with that guy who understands the selling process, who can take you under his wing and help you, versus the marketer who's going to...
Different captive agencies out there, and I don't need to name any names, but it was the similar thing. I always asked, well, how do I get in front of people? How are you going to help me get in front of people? And my mentor got me into the business, and I'm like, he says, go out there, go learn a system. And he told me what you told me. He said, go interview, ask everybody, and see what you think is going to be the best fit for you. And he warned me about the Project 100 and the Project 250, in that he says they continue to do it, and that's been the status quo. Imagine you have like a giant plate of spaghetti in front of you. Just go ahead and grab a big handful of that spaghetti and throw it against the wall and see who sticks, okay? And you've got a whole bunch of spaghetti strings right at first, maybe, but pretty quickly they're all falling down on the ground. Maybe there's one or two left. Well, all those agents that they brought in, and they're saying, hey, go work your Project 100. Go work your Project 100. You go write that business underneath somebody else's name because you're in training, and then what happens? You fall out of the business 6 months later. Now they've got all of your family and friends on their insurance plans, and so they win. They don't lose anything if you fall out of the business, but they win for those people who do stay in the business. And so it doesn't seem to be the best for agents to do quite like that. And so what's your vision for Final Expense Agent Mentor, and where do you see it in 5 years?
Yeah, so the vision for my business is I will continue to expand my agency and work with those select agents that want to dedicate themselves to selling not just Final Expense, but also other product lines. So one of the goals I have over the next year or two is to start differentiating different offerings. So we're going to be getting into Medicare in the next 6 to 12 months to go into process. So my agency is moving from niche to a broader base approach, and we're just going to keep working that angle. And then I'm also going to be, which we'll talk about later, the Inner Circle program. We're going to be rolling out more training as it relates to helping insurance agents master the selling process and marketing process to be successful in this business, while getting the coaching that's necessary to help them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's just staying the course and working hard to help people out.
Every show we have one big question that we like to ask our guests, and a question we have for you today: there are so many different facets of the insurance industry. Why did you choose specifically to specialize in Final Expense? What inspired you to do just Final Expense at the start?
I think the big thing in my mind was I didn't want to spend conceivably multiple months
in Final Expense. What inspired you to do just Final Expense at the start?
I think the big thing in my mind was I didn't want to spend conceivably multiple months preparing, whether through certifications or credentialing or through just the study process of a more advanced type of product. So when I saw Medicare, for example, I thought, well, geez, I got to know every aspect of Medicare. It's simpler now, but getting into the business new in insurance, it scared me off.
Oh, yeah.
So, and then I wanted a product that was mass market, where it was a product that you could just run with that applied to a lot of potential prospects, was simple to sell, and really just numbers and activity driven. And that's where I found final expense to be really good as a new agent to start, because, you know, what I was reading online and doing research about is that, okay, final expense, vast majority of the results of final expense is based off of activity. I thought, well, hell, I can do that. I've been selling personal training and getting up at 6 in the morning, going home at 8 at night for years now.
Right,
It's easy. I mean, easy in the sense that I can do that. You know, I can fill in the pieces as I go. If all the main thing that's required is me to show up and work hard. So that was a big attraction to it.
So you would suggest...
Plus, the baby boomer market's just huge, 10,000 a day for the next 20, 30 years. There's going to be a never-ending supply of people who are thinking about dying that may want to plan like this.
I know the baby boomer generation is, I think personally, an underserved market. A lot of them they're getting pitched guaranteed issue stuff from the mail, and a lot of times you can run into folks who are paying twice as much as they should, and so with the final expense, you know, I don't know what kind of I don't know what kind of marketing you're doing, but most people that do final expense, we work off of some sort of lead program. And it's funny when somebody fills out a lead form, they're like, "Oh yeah, we've got that coverage already," and oh great, let's see what it looks like. And you'll see this guaranteed issue that they just got maybe 6 months ago, and it is twice as much as they're supposed to pay. And there's no reason our seniors that you know, they don't have a lot. A lot of them have medical issues. There's no reason they need to be paying twice as much as they should be on their insurance. There's just no reason. And I think the shortage of agents is the reason for that. Would you agree that there's a shortage of agents for what the need is for the consumer base?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you look at the stats, your average insurance agent is 59 or 60. Okay, I'm 33. And so it's interesting if you study I mean, there were more insurance agents, you know, 1529 had 275,000 contracted agents. That's like half of the amount of life agents that are out there today. That's crazy. You know, we're talking almost 30 years ago. And for whatever reason, the market has just dwindled away, but the need for life insurance, as you watch LIMRA and you read the reports, it's increased. Most people agree they need life insurance. And most people will also admit they don't have enough.
Right.
But again, that puts a great opportunity in the hands of a hardworking agent that will go see the people, because I didn't recognize this when I first started. But look, you know, the good producers out there, they're going to replace, if you look at their total production, 25, 30%. I've heard of guys 40% plus their total production is based off of replacement.
That's where I'm at.
And that's because it's that much inferior coverage that's out there. So that's like an added benefit to the already reality that there's just not enough people with enough insurance.
Well, that's exactly right. That's what my thoughts were, because that's where
reality that there's just not enough people with enough insurance.
Well, that's exactly right. That's what my thoughts were, because that's where I'm at. I'm about 50% is replacements, and so a lot of that's easy to replace, because it's like, man, you shouldn't be right here. There's a better place for you to be.
Dave, you would then suggest for new agents to maybe try and get into the final expense realm because it's easier.
You know, I think that final expense is one of those products to consider, because I think, again, look, anytime you make a career change, it's going to be a whole new world. I don't care if you're a great salesperson from the home improvement business or you're coming from business to business sales. Look, it's a different product. There's things that are the same, of course, but there's things that are different. Yeah. And I think to give yourself the best chance of success, you need a product that is just easy to run with, that's more activity driven than based off of, let's say, you know, some unique market segment. Well, you know, I also like mortgage protection. I think that's a great product to start with as well. Just a duplicatable process or product that has a large market is the main important thing. And if you like working with older people, final expense is a good option for that. Right.
It's like if you were to explain it, and you got in and you were learning math, and I handed you a scientific calculator or just the basic old school calculator. Selling final expense is a lot more simple and straightforward and basic, because there's not a lot of moving parts. Whereas you go into something like an annuity or an IUL contract, those are a lot more complicated, like what you're talking about. And are you're saying that the mortgage protection's just as simple as final expense, or is that a little bit more advanced?
I think mortgage protection, just like final expense, is filling a particular type of need that's easy to understand for most people. Hey, you've got this $150,000
Advanced.
I think mortgage protection, just like final expense, is filling a particular type of need that's easy to understand for most people. Hey, you've got this $150,000 mortgage. What if you die? What happens to that? What about your surviving spouse or replacement of income?
Right.
And mortgage protection has the added benefit, of course, of it's based off of a life event. So when people file for a mortgage, look, they know they're in debt, and the thought probably crosses their mind that what happens if I die? So that's really good. So simple products like that are really a great way to get started. And I'll add this too, guys. I think it's also important to add, focus on one product only. Don't get all down in the weeds trying to be everything to everybody. I mean, the best agents that I know that go on convention pretty much focus on one thing. Now, there's always guys that do a little bit of everything and can do pretty well. But a lot of the best producers, they're specialists, or they just write a bunch of simplified issue terms through mortgage protection. But in the beginning, give yourself a year to become a master before you start thinking of IULs or annuities or other things, because you'll just get distracted. Diffusion is the enemy of productivity.
Right. And I think what else will happen, too, is if you're not as confident, you're not going to be writing as much. And so if you're confused on how an annuity works and you go and try to write one and somebody's shifting over 50 to 100,000 and you say something, you stumble up, and all of a sudden your credibility with them just plummets.
Yeah, no doubt. There's all that compliance issues with some of these products, and I don't want to ruin somebody's retirement, especially if I don't have a base point yet. Of course, you got to eventually learn something and then just take a step out and give it a shot. You're not going to know everything until you actually do it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, especially if you're new and you're worried about those things, this is why a simple product like life insurance, like mortgage protection, term insurance, voluntary payroll deduct, final expense. These are easily understood products that a lot of people need. Right. And if you just apply yourself to the system, you'll have plenty of people to pitch to.
Right. So we have to go to break here, but when we come back, Dave is going to talk with us a little bit more about his successful Inner Circle program, and he's also going to talk with us about his book that he wrote and how you can access both. Do not go away.
Did you know that addiction is the #1 health crisis in America today? Hi there. This is Monty Meyer, CEO of Take 12 Recovery Radio, the world's original recovery talk and positive music radio station, on the front lines of breaking the stigma that is addiction. For valuable information on the solutions like you and I who love those living with addictive illness, tune into any of our shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Where? At take12radio.com on your internet dial.
This is Glenn Shelton, founder and president of Lead Heroes, and you're listening to the Insurance Academy podcast, the only place that gets you in touch with the top people in the industry to give you the knowledge, skills, and advice you need to be successful in the insurance business.
All right, Dave, welcome back to the show, guys. Let's talk about that Inner Circle program. Could we for a minute?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So details, fill us in.
Okay, so as I talked about earlier, absolutely.
Awesome. So details, fill us in.
Okay, so as I talked about earlier, a lot of my business focused on training agents that want to work within my agency. But what I recognized maybe back a year or two ago, there was a lot of people that enjoyed my content, say on YouTube, on my email newsletter, but they were happy enough with their current setup with whatever organization that they're with, but they felt it was important to have the additional training. So there were the seeds of the Inner Circle concept. So talking about the same concepts we talked about earlier about lack of training and coaching, I decided to create a program where I would help people out on a coaching basis and live stream coaching basis to where agents could come in, listen to me talk about a subject. Many times I'm reviewing live sales calls from real life agents, live prospecting calls, the agents on my live stream. How do you actually do this in the real world? And then answer their live questions as well. And then also facilitate a community amongst agents that are passionate about education so they can advance their own careers. So the inner circle is based around that concept. Agents get to have one-on-one consults with me every month to talk about whatever burning questions they have about what they're experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
There's live stream coaching calls multiple times a month to help them reinforce their training methods that they learn.
Yep.
And there's a community on Facebook, a private members-only group, to help get the group involved with encouraging each other, answering questions, that kind of thing.
Right.
And also there's a back-end training that has tons of training modules on not only final expense, but other products that we've mentioned earlier. So if an agent's newer, not quite sure what they want to do, and they want to kind of investigate different products and different sales ideas that are out there, they can do so and really just learn a process and figure out what works best for them.
That's awesome.
It's just a great way to get into this business, especially after you're licensed or you're thinking about getting back in insurance and need some guidance on which direction to go, but also get the sales training involved to help you do well when you're actually out there seeing people.
Right. And I want to back up for a second because you made a wonderful point, and it I think it hits home with our topic perfectly. Is a career in insurance a racket? And I think what I'm seeing personally, I think it is hush hush, we want to keep our training to ourselves thing. And it sounds like you're trying to buck that trend by making that available to people, where you're not going to try to recruit them. You're not going to try to get them to switch their contracts over to you and go that route. You're actually trying to be there for everybody, regardless of them to switch their contracts over to you and go that route. You're actually trying to be there for everybody, regardless of who they're with. You just want to help them be successful. Is that what I'm hearing, man?
Yeah, there's a lot of understandable concern that why would I give out this kind of information to my potential competition? I just don't think that we really have as much competition as we think. I mean, I've sold final expense for 7 years, and the worst competition that actually has a daily effect on you is your own self. It's the guy looking back in the mirror, okay? And if you want to beat your worst competition, then you need to become better educated. You need to have more access to resources and materials to do a better job. Because look, there's all sorts of insurance agents, but the reality is there's tons and endless amounts of prospects. You just won't ever get to all of them. And if you will just focus on improving yourself and bettering yourself in this career out, because on top of all that, look, there's a lot of people that need our help. And you can't help them if you fail out of this business in 6 months because you didn't have the support, didn't have the training, you didn't have that hands-on approach that's just so necessary.
Right.
So yeah, that's why I do it, and I'm not worried about it affecting anybody in particular. It'll just help more of our prospects.
Absolutely.
And help you stay in the business,
right,
as opposed to God going back to work for somebody else. Do what I'm saying.
Oh my gosh, never again. So let's dive into your book here for a few minutes. What spurred you writing a book? If you talk to anybody who's written a book before, they'll tell you it sucks writing a book. It's wonderful having a book and saying that you've written a book and having a book to sell, but the actual writing process is just so daunting. What made you, are you a masochist, or what made you kind of decide to write a book and saying that you've written a book and having a book to sell, but the actual writing process is just so daunting? What made you, are you a masochist, or what made you kind of decide to write a book?
Well, I just knew that, writing a book is daunting. It is a time commitment. And it took me 2 years to get to the end of it, not because there was so much detail that went into it. I just put it on my back shelf for a year and a half.
Sure.
Because it did take so much time. But the reason I wrote a book is because, look, people learn differently, right? Like some people all they need is YouTube videos, and they can absorb tons of information. Some people do great and listen to podcasts, and that's how they get their educational fill. Me, I guess I have what's called Picard syndrome. I don't know if you're a dork like me and used to watch Star Trek The Next Generation, but Captain Picard, he can't stand reading essentially the equivalent of ebooks these days. He has to feel the book cover. He has to ebooks. I sell an ebook, but I don't read them. I would prefer paperback. So that's kind of what spurred me on, is that some people just learn like that really well.
Yep.
And plus, hey, look, if I wrote the book on it, I wrote the book on it.
You wrote the book on it. That's more than I can say. That's for sure. Man, I cannot wait to read your book. I haven't read it personally, but I need to jump on there and order it right now. In fact, I'm doing that on my phone right now. And I encourage all of you to go out and get the book right now. And before the show, Dave and I were talking about we were going over what we were going to talk about in his Inner Circle program, and he thought it was going to be an awesome idea to put a little special offer together for everybody listening to help them figure out, what's the right place for me in the insurance business without having to worry about getting recruited. I just want some knowledge. And can you kind of tell everybody, Dave, about what that special offer you came up with was?
Yeah, so what Ryan and I agreed upon to help your audience get maximal amount of training and experience is that if you purchase the official guide to buying final or selling final expense insurance, if you purchase the ebook portion of it, you can click the detail link. There's one below that will lead you to this offer. Once you buy the book, I'm going to throw in a free month's worth of the Inner Circle program that we talked about earlier. So you can see what it's like, test it out, and hopefully gather some good information that you can actually put into action and get results from. And that's at no cost to you for that first month of just sampling it, trying it out, and see if it's right for you.
Right. And what do you normally charge for that program?
So right now I charge just $47 a month. Not too bad. I do have a slated pricing on new people joining within the next several months. So at the time of this recording, I can't promise if somebody's listening to this, later on, but I can definitely give you the lower price, again, as an added incentive to giving the program a shot.
And everybody, the more people that get on there, the more resources he'll be able to have to help expand your knowledge and your growth. So every time we do the show, Dave, so our show is to give you the knowledge, skills, and advice you need to be successful in the insurance business. And every show, you just dropped a whole bunch of knowledge on us. And clearly you've got the skills, and you're giving everybody the resources right now on where they can find out more, because there's no possible way we could cover this all in one show. It's just there's way too much knowledge and way too many details. So check out his book. Go on Amazon, or I'm sorry, go on the link below. Knowledge and way too many details. So check out his book. Go on Amazon, or I'm sorry, go on the link below. That's going to be in the show notes, and it'll take you to the place where you can buy it and get the free month's $50 value right now.
Hey, Dave, how much is that book?
Yeah, so the ebook is $19.99.
Okay.
$20.
So $20, and you are saving $47 on a month worth of the Inner Circle program.
That's awesome, man. What do you see? So every show, knowledge, skills, and advice. So you'd mentioned before you kind of said, I'll give a piece of advice, and I could not agree with that one more. You said focus on one thing. And there's a book by Gary Keller called The One Thing, and he goes deep into why you should focus on one thing. And I'm curious, how often do you read? How many books?
I'll tell you this year in 2018, I've set a goal of reading 50 to 60 books. Or at least one book a week. At the recording of this, I'm probably at about 30 books done. And so I'm a huge reader. I admit, though, I've had, just like anything you want in life, you have to discipline yourself. I have to schedule reading first thing in the morning or first thing at night. I only read 30 minutes a day. But if you commit yourself to that, guys, look, you can do exactly what I'm doing here. And I mean, as plenty of people will tell you, if you become a good reader, you become a good leader.
Right.
And, the financial opportunities usually come from that.
Right. I'm a huge advocate for self-education. And my advice to everybody out there is when you're in your car, have Dave's program on YouTube playing, have Audible playing, be listening to the greats out. Be listening to the greats out there and turn your car into a mobile university. I mean, you have a whole lot of windshield time a lot of times when you're doing final expense, and you want to make sure to maximize your time. And so you what you've done is you've just carved out 30 minutes every day at a certain time in our reading, or are you just kind of doing it as time comes up?
Yeah, so for me, again, this is big. I'm a big advocate for anybody listening to this. By Brian Tracy. So Brian Tracy is I guess you could call him a management specialist guru type.
Yeah.
He's got this, I don't know, it's always real comfortable. It's kind of like a loving dad type of a guy. And he's Canadian, so that helps with his disposition. But anyways, my favorite material by Brian is his time management stuff. Like I am an advocate of how he teaches how to schedule your day, how to prioritize the most important things, important to, like he says, eat that frog. Get anything you can to absorb that, because for me, I determined this at the beginning of the year, I was going to commit to a long-term reading schedule that by just saying, hey, I want to read, I might read an hour a week, but I could get triple or quadruple the amount of time if I would just set aside time and block it off. So for me, I do it first thing in the morning, before the day gets going, or I end the day, and after the kid's in bed, pull out a book and start reading. Can't do that now with the newborn.
Yeah,
but it's better first thing in the morning. But either way, look, guys, if you want to do anything in life and you want to make it a priority, you have to make it a priority. You got to put it down in writing. You got to schedule it, and you've got to work on making it your goal to eliminate everything in your schedule, so every day you feel productive because you are productive. So So book reading or anything else, really, really important.
And it's something that you have to develop as a habit. And I'm fortunate in that I was given very good advice to begin reading and self-educating when I started my bachelor's in business. And so for my entire 3-4 years studying business at college, I was also reading books, and it actually made the work a lot easier because I was well versed on the different ins and outs. So you'd learn a subject and just deep dive into a subject. Maybe if you want to learn leadership, pick up a Malcolm Gladwell book, pick up a Tim Story book, go listen to Grant Cardone, listen to Brian Tracy, like Dave just mentioned, and doing it once a week is not going to cut it. If it's worth doing once a week, it's worth doing every day. And if you do it every day, you'll build the habit, and you'll look back and say, whoa, over the last 3.5 years, I've read 150 books. Wow. How many books do you think you've read?
Yeah, for the year, I've read hundreds, of course.
Oh,
look, I'm just as lazy as probably some of your audience thinks they themselves are. We all are. You probably would agree with me. But what you have to get a grasp on is that you have to discipline yourself. And you have to, one of the things about being an entrepreneur is you've got to, you're all on your own. Nobody's going to motivate you to go work. Nobody's going to care. It's all on your shoulders to show up and work. And for me, I have to be my own boss. It's like I have the angel and the devil on my shoulder. I have to be wary of that devil. And the only way to control that is to apply myself and discipline myself to some sort of schedule, which reading and all the other important activities are a part of. So, this is something that's a priority, you guys listening. Get serious about setting goals, daily goals. Compartmentalize what you want to. And things happen in your life just by doing that.
Yep, just by showing up. So I'm curious. Let's talk about some final remarks here, and this is more of some visionary stuff and kind of. What do you think is like the biggest challenge you see in the industry right now for just the new agents out there? What's the biggest challenge to come into the industry for everybody?
To survive. I think that's the key thing. I think it was Al Granum or Burt Meisel, one of these old school legends of selling insurance that basically said, look, your goal is to just survive this business, because if you can survive selling insurance, things start to turn the corner. I talked about my failure within the first year. I failed out of the business because of stupid mistakes I did.
Right.
But I had a chance to get back in. And I'm especially thankful because I recognize that my life would have been to get back about my failure within the first year. I failed out of the business because of stupid mistakes I did.
Right.
But I had a chance to get back in. And I'm especially thankful because I recognize that my life would have been an absolute disaster if I had to work for a corporation that could care less about me, that wanted me to push a product I didn't believe in.
Right.
And so it was a good lesson. So I think you guys got to survive. And in this business, the way that you survive is support. It's a clear goal as to what you want to accomplish in your career, and it's sticking to the plan. And of course, part of what's important about that plan is having people to see. The cornerstone of this business, I don't care what people think. I don't care what people say. This is a numbers game.
Right.
All right? You've got to see the people, and you've got to do it every week and stay consistent to it. Business comes up if you see people. So,
right. And I want to challenge. Can I challenge that? I'm not going to survive. Would you agree? It comes down to training, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, no. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that the only solution is that it's a numbers game. But I think it's a yin and yang type of argument. There's a balance to training, and as well as activity.
Yeah.
And look, I can take Tony Robbins and Mr. Charismatic, and if he's only doing 2 or 3 final expense presentations a week, but the guy, my guy who's a moderately okay salesperson is doing 15.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to clobber Tony. And even though Tony's a natural, that doesn't matter because he's just not doing the activity. That's the point I'm making. You surely do both. That's the goal.
Surely, yes.
But, make sure you're seeing the people. And
yes.
Kind of things start to make sense. Start to come together if you've got adequate training.
And
naturally.
You mentioned 15 appointments a week. Is that what your average agents are doing?
Just depends on the part together if you've got adequate training.
And
naturally.
You mentioned 15 appointments a week. Is that what your average agents are doing?
Just depends. Some are part-time, some are full-time. I think that 15 is the magic number. There are people in our industry in final expense, like Travis Tubbs, who talks about 15 appointments a week being the magic number. There's a book called It Can Only Get Better. It's a guy in the UK. His name is Tony Gordon. He is an MDRT member, lifetime member. He sells to business owners, and he learned the magic 15 number early on in his career. And the concept is simple. See 15 people a week. It doesn't matter if it's over 2 days or 5 days. If you just see 15 people a week, things tend to happen. Some weeks better than others, of course. Nobody's going to tell you it's going to be some sort of algorithmic, predictable equation. But generally speaking, if you can do 15 appointments a week, you're going to make sales. You're going to see new opportunities, and you're going to say a lot more.
Right.
Well, we're kind of coming to the end of our show here, but Dave, how can our listeners learn more details about Final Expense Agent Mentor?
Yeah, I think the best way to get to know me better is just to go to YouTube. So when you go to YouTube, to do one of two things. You can put my name in, Dave Duford, that's Duford, or you can just put in Final Expense Agent Mentor. You'll see my channel. Go ahead and subscribe. I do videos Monday through Friday, but YouTube just allows me the greatest opportunity for you to get to know me, see what I'm about, see if what I preach is your kind of message, and to see if I can help you. So go to YouTube, go there. Of course, you can go to my website at FEAgentMentor.com, but YouTube just is way better in the experience for the agent that wants training and wants resources.
Awesome. Well, you heard it from the man himself. Go find him on YouTube at Final Expense Agent Mentor, or search up Dave Duford, Thank you so much, Dave, for being on the show today, and thank you, listeners, for taking time out of your day to improve your knowledge on how to be a powerhouse in the insurance industry. Be sure to buy Dave's book on Amazon and get that month free of the Inner Circle program, and you can check out that link on our page to figure out how to get that. Make sure for more details to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or go to our website at insuranceacademypodcast.com. As always, make sure to subscribe. Get out there, guys, take today by the reins, and conquer the industry. We'll talk to you on our next episode.
This has been the Insurance Academy Podcast. For more information, request to join our exclusive agent and producer support group on Facebook at Insurance Academy